he is recommending an approach that most sellers and buyers will not touch. Dan Locke's 7 Pricing Strategies video is the most highly watched pricing video on YouTube, with nearly 350,000 views. To be fair, there's a lot of good information on the video. I like it. But when he tells people his go-to strategy, he is recommending an approach that most sellers and buyers will not touch. Let me explain what I mean and then give you a roadmap for how you can turn Locke's guidance into a more nuanced, more successful pricing strategy in your business. For a complimentary PDF on the 5 levels of value-based pricing, click on the link in the description below. The place we need to start is by defining Locke's approach. In the pricing world, Locke is talking about an offshoot of value-based pricing called outcome-based pricing. With outcome-based pricing, your payment is tied directly to producing results for a B2B client. When applying outcome-based pricing, it is critical to distinguish between value and outcomes, because in most cases, the two are not the same. Value is the monetary impact we have on a client's business. We grow revenues and we reduce costs. That's it. That's what value is. Value is measured in dollars or euros or yuan or other currency. Locke's example, saying we grow revenues by $4 million and get 5 or 10% share, is a rare case where the value and outcomes are the same. But here's the rub, as Shakespeare would have put it. Most customers don't want to share a percentage of the value. Let's use Locke's example. Most companies will calculate that 10% of $4 million is $400K. They are likely to look at that number and tell Locke to get screwed. They are much more likely to bring their executive team together for a half day, pay Locke $40K for his best advice, and keep the remaining $360,000 for themselves as they implement the recommendations. Likewise, most suppliers don't want to get in bed with their customers to the extent that their payment is contingent on the customer's success. I can tell you from my 25 plus years of consulting that most of my recommendations end up in the dustbin. If you're going to tie your payment to your customer success, you'd better be damned careful in selecting which customers are worthy of that level of trust. In sum, Locke's approach makes a lot of sense, but does not work in most cases. So let's look at how we can turn this thinking into a model that works much more frequently in a real business situation. We deliver value when our products or services impact our customer's business in a positive way and deliver a financial result. These business impacts are called benefits and are at the heart of understanding outcomes. For example, your solution increases uptime for a manufacturer. Your ingredient makes paint flow more easily. Your equipment reduces energy costs. Your hardware increases bandwidth. Or your software drives higher sales production. These are all benefits. So what are outcomes? Outcomes are the measurable impacts of benefits we deliver that directly correlate with value delivered. If I say a firm achieved 99.4% uptime, that's an outcome. If I say energy costs were reduced by 4,500 kilowatt hours, that's an outcome. If I say that my software reduced lost sales by 20%, that's an outcome. These are not specifically value, but each have direct value consequences. Outcome-based pricing happens when our price capture is directly tied to outcomes. One business area that often uses outcome-based pricing is managed IT services. In these 3 examples, managed services may have their fees tied directly to uptime, energy efficiency, or reduction in lost sales. In other words, the managed services company shares the business risk with the customer and is jointly accountable for the designated outcome. Now let's choose uptime in a somewhat extreme example to develop a pricing strategy. Uptime is valued differently by different manufacturers. At Intel, for example, when a chip manufacturer machine goes down, the cost of that downtime can be $7 million per hour. Why is it worth so much? Because Intel operates 24/7 mass-producing chips. A down machine costs lost sales. Alternatively, believe it or not, there are actually mom-and-pop microchip manufacturers. They own a handful of machines and get contracts to produce a set of chips for a specific application. Let's say it's a talking doll. Uptime on any given day is relatively unimportant, as long as they can get the batch of chips done in 90 days so assembly of the doll can happen before Christmas. If you served both these customers, you might have an outcome-based pricing strategies structured like this. You have two offerings. For Intel, you have a 99.999% uptime offering at a high price, and you have a 90% uptime offering at a low price for the mom-and-pop manufacturing. Note this is not just a price difference, but a process, outcome, and value difference as well. Your work effort and processes are going to be dramatically different in each case. You'll likely have bonuses for exceeding your target levels and also penalties if you miss. Though the example is somewhat extreme, this is a much more realistic scenario for how an outcome-based pricing strategy works in the real world. You can count on being paid for your work because you have a contract for payment and a negotiated price. If you exceed, you get more, and if you miss, you get less. You are aligned with your customer success, but your butt is not exposed if something unexpected happens in the client's business. Once again, for a free PDF on the 5 levels of value-based pricing, please click on the link in the description below. For a deep dive on outcome-based pricing with another example and a detailed list of advantages and disadvantages, click here. For one of our other videos, click here. And thanks for joining me at Value and Pricing Secrets.